So the national, state, and local laws around workforce, and if you were to look at rejigging some of the workforce or the natural retirements that come up, what would be a sense of the liabilities that come up, so pension or anything else. So broadly, these are the three areas I got. Asim, if I missed out anything or you want to add some more perspective, passing it over to you.
Thanks, Ashish. I think you have elaborated it well. Basically, Emil, what the EC felt is that definitely this is something that we will pursue. But before going to the next step, they want to dive a little deeper into the projections. That's the whole idea. So, for example, if I make a plan of something going up from 5 to 15, or a growth of say 15% or 17%, then how there has to be a thought process. We need to understand that thought process, how it is achieved or achievable, what are the levers of that. So if we get a idea on that, that will really help us move forward faster.
Okay.
Now,
so pretty much your questions are separated into two different things. One is a deeper dive into the projections and understanding that bridge, as you spoke of, and the second one is the pension and employee-related liabilities. I guess let me start with the first question. So, when we built that forecast, I think you can rely, let's say, almost with 100% certainty on 2026. When it comes to 27, 28, 29, it is very difficult to forecast into the future, as you know. But what we can do is explain to you the changes that we're, introducing into the business, and how that's going to impact the results. So today, a lot of the business that we've had, or the majority, right? You look at the distribution, it's like 90% Germany and, Austria, Swiss, predominantly really Germany. And this is business that we get from just repeating from our distributor network. We have 4 distributors in Germany. We have some distributors abroad. But for the German sales, this is really what I would classify as automatic, intuitive sales, because the product is very well known in the region and it sort of sells itself to some extent. The only other market where we have an interesting presence outside of Germany is Israel, and this is where we have appointed a distributor. We have a distributor appointed who does some very solid sales. Now, from a sales point of view, we haven't really paid. We've only been involved 4 months. The objective has been to restructure the business. And really the focus has been, all right, how do we exit from this stamping business? Because there's 2 business divisions in Germany, as you recall, because it is not desirable for us. Now we've basically finalized our plan. The move will happen somewhere within the next 4 months. And in 2 steps. One step will be moving the rotor die cast machine, which is very similar to the operations we have in Hungary. So this can be moved with relative ease. The other part will consist of moving one stamping machine and outsourcing the rest to Hungarian subcontractors. What this means, what I'm trying to tell you is our focus has been on how do we remove the bloat, how do we get this to be exclusively gensets, so we can dedicate our time and the team's time purely on the genset business, where we have a much higher, gross margin. So we're coming to the conclusion of that study. And then it's the part of the execution, but the decision is essentially already made. There are 98 employees dedicated to gensets, give you an idea, and 35 dedicated to the stamping. So you can consider 35 already going to come out. 98 is in the gensets. From these 98, okay, we think, and we are still optimizing right now, so we see opportunity in some administrative positions and some, back office positions to remove some headcount. Okay, so that's something we are doing. In the projections that you've seen, this has not been considered. We have not considered an optimization in terms of personnel costs. the only thing you see in the projections from 2027 to 2029 is an increase of gross margin, okay, as a result of higher sales. Right? So the cost aspect of it, we haven't necessarily tackled other than assuming an equivalent increase in materials, in personnel, as that revenue goes up. And I don't believe it will be equivalent. I think it will be improved because we still have room for improvement today. On the sales side, we have, for example, I'm flying to Germany this Wednesday, and I'm meeting someone who is very high in the NATO military and deals with NATO procurement offices. We have now shifted our focus, as we concluded the study of the restructuring, we've now shifted our focus to sales. And the sales will come in really two aspects. One is tackling NATO markets very strongly because we have the NSN number, the NATO supply number. So if we're good enough for the German Bundeswehr, we're good enough for the other militaries in the EU. And that's currently very, underexplored. So we can really push with sales in Europe. And there is no reason why we shouldn't be making sales to other European nations. In fact, we recently had an order for the Ukrainian to Ukraine of our gensets. This was an order placed this month. I think it was 350k. Wojciech has the exact number.
It's 250 for the 20 gensets. This is the first part of the help to Ukraine organized by the German government.
Thank you. So that's on the front of sales, let's say in NATO. We're starting to involve and actually, put on a consulting basis ex-generals, military people that have serious contact lists and weighting within those procurement departments of different armies, particularly in NATO. So that's one thing we're starting now. It's very difficult for me to tell you how many sales that will generate. Okay, it's difficult to quantify, which is why in the projection we gave you, 27, 28, 29, is what we would like to achieve and what we think we can, given, the attention we're putting towards the business now. Then, looking at distributors abroad, this is the other thing we're going to tackle when it comes to sales. So we are redrafting distribution agreements and making it very incentive heavy once they reach certain milestones of, distributing 3 million, 4 million euro worth of generator plus. So we'll make those agreements, exponential. So that's the two sales fronts we will now have more time and bandwidth to focus on. What I can propose is, obviously you're still in a due diligence phase. Any offer you make now is indicative and non-binding. We can evolve the numbers together. We can, the numbers can be modeled and worked on jointly depending on how successful we are in our approach over the next few months, right?
So this is in line with what I was thinking, that mostly it's a fixed cost leverage that is going to achieve the EBITDA. I was telling that to Ashish, that on the cost side, of course, whatever we get is extra, but most of the EBITDA bridge is related to sales growth. That is what it seems.
Absolutely.
Now in sales growth, there are 2 or 3 components that you have said. One is business as usual, which is mostly in Germany, and we would like to understand that in next few years, what kind of growth you have there. Then there is, because of volumes, discount, you are anticipating something. And third is, because of your approvals in NATO, you want to go into new countries. So have you really worked out something on the third aspect from where you are going to get, or it is still in a very initial stages? Or do you have something that, okay, from this country, in NATO, we want to have a distribution in a 1 year's time or a 2 years' time. Some approvals are required, and we will have business. So that bridge of sales is more important, Ashish, I think, than EBITDA. Because if the sales bridge is there, then definitely the EBITDA bridge will come. So that's my question to you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the connection wasn't good. I heard basically everything you said. So one is the ongoing German business, which will, how does that progress in terms of growth? The other one is NATO business, how much we believe can be sold. And what was the second point? Was that the international?
The discount, the discount one. You said, by giving some extra price, you want to see that you get some more business from the existing client.
What I mean there, it's not a discount per se. It's internationally with distributors. We are only performing today in one place, and that's Israel, because it's a distributor that's operating very well. What we want to do is we've reached out, for example, to some military contacts we have in Jordan, and those military contacts in Jordan and the distribution company has a network to UAE, to Saudi. So our intention is to give strong mandates that are very, advantageous for those distributors, because it's a win-win scenario. Whatever sales they make in those regions, the company obviously wins because we have a huge gross margin. We can afford to give back, we can afford to give them something there. And what I mean by discount is, we want to build our distribution new contracts on an incentive model. So, okay, you sell 2 million of our generators per annum. These are your prices. However, should you reach the 5 million mark, okay, we can consider a rebate, for example, or, that you get at year end. So this is all subject to negotiation. But what I mean by, let's say, discount is we want to build a model where internationally, at least outside of NATO, we're very, choosing the right distributors that have the right incentives in place.
Okay. So this model, can you share this model with you, or what, like a bridge, so that we are very clear that, okay, these are the levers that we have to pull so that we get that result in 5 years. Of course, it will be, we are not expecting this to be precise, because I understand that 26, the numbers will be a little accurate, but beyond that, it is all subject to a lot of conditions. So have you done that bridge, or it is still work in process for the sales projection that you have shown?
Work in progress, at least, unless Wojciech has something, but for me, it's work in progress. And in fact, the meetings we intend to have this week are very NATO focused, and based on those meetings, we can probably build something for NATO. So standard German and Dash, NATO, and then international. What that looks like. The hardest one to predict by far will be international, because it's the rest of the world, right? It's huge, and it will depend on the distributor performance. We can perhaps use as the benchmark the Israeli distributor and how they've managed to perform, because the Middle Eastern, the reactions we've had so far from the Middle Eastern distributor people is, wow, okay, you supply the Iron Dome in Israel, okay, this is a very good meeting card for us to talk with people in the region. But German, we can assume some growth. For NATO, I think we can see that this week, Wojciech.
Yeah, and Emmanuel, to this what you said. So yes, this is work in progress. But when it comes to the countries where we believe we will have the constant and increased inflow of the orders, this is definitely Poland. So my home country, who is spending quite a lot of GDP and will highly participate in reconstruction of Ukraine. We believe so. Then Finland, Estonia. And Denmark as well, with this new geopolitical situation. With Middle East, as Emmanuel said, so we are already quite visible on the market. And also to give you a context, just today morning we have received a new order for 400k euro from Israel. So this business will continue to grow because we have a really good reputation on this market when it comes to the gensets. And with this new contact that we have through the former military officials, we believe in increased presence in the Middle East. So these are the, let's say, the directions that we are planning to grow pretty strongly.
So fantastic. This is what I was looking for. This is like a plan. You know, in international, for example, what we are doing is we are saying, okay, these are the 5 focus countries. So, for example, for us, there are 5 focus countries where we have planned for next 5 years, what we want to do. You know, in which country we want to have a distributor, wherever we want to have agents or a rep or a warehouse. So we have some plan in 5 to 6 countries, and then we have the entire widening exercise on how you will do that. So if you have something like that on Poland or Finland, Middle East, some thought process, we really want to understand the thought process first, how you are planning to do in these countries. I think that will be a good starting point. So have you that? Do you have that ready, or you are still making it? Just the plan.
So we are in process we are in process of making it. So basically, we have discussed it quite thoroughly. So we know what we want to put on the paper. So now it's just a matter of really finalizing that in a form of document with a clear direction to the team, and also assigning the resources that are needed to, let's say, achieve that.
So this document, if you are able to do that, will really help us. Put just these thoughts into paper.
Yeah, look, I understand your request. Let us discuss what we will be, let's say, able to share with you. But I believe definitely on some general level or top level plan that should be possible.
Okay, thank you. Another point was, and this is the point I had raised earlier, is there is a concern in the IC committee about defense business. After the acquisitions, will get the same kind of preference or same kind of treatment by the distributors and also the end users. So we don't want to land up in a position, because it's a big risk that if an Indian company acquires an asset in Germany or Europe, and then the military establishment, somebody says that, oh, now this is an Indian company, it is not part of NATO, so we will not buy. So that assurance has to come somehow. So this is an area of concern for us.
Well, look, based on experience, because there's usually a question in France. A lot of the businesses I'm running there, they're usually very worried about, national sovereignty, and particularly businesses. One of the business I sold to Rectifiers, which is an Indian company, so B-Link Solutions. It's a company based in France that's doing PCBAs. They had a similar concern, and in fact, they contacted local government officials and also people in the government, just to confirm that there is not a problem with them buying the company, because they were supplying, we were supplying Thales, we were supplying Excel, we were supplying big defense companies with some volumes, and that was one of their concerns. And in fact, Europe doesn't really care. It's the simple answer. Of course, you need to do your due diligence and you need to check. We can't give you that assurance, as a current shareholder. I think you just need to set up meetings with, the government representatives or the ministry representatives, from that region, and just get a confirmation from them. It's as simple as that. But as far as my experience goes, I've sold a company in the defense business to an Indian buyer. They didn't have any problems. I'm still in contact with them today. They still have a defense business. They participate on public tenders on the Ministry of Defense or MOD website. And Europe, especially now with the free trade agreements between EU and India, the relationship, I'd say, is pretty good. The only thing Europeans care about, and this is more France, Germany, they're more relaxed, is that the people of that country will stay employed, so that there's no, let's say, you're not buying the company to repatriate the technology and wind it down, which, it's your business, so it can be, strategy later on in 5 years, 10 years, doesn't matter. But that's the main thing that they will be sort of worried about is, okay, are you going to keep the locals employed? they really care about the local people having a job. That's based on my experience, but you should definitely contact someone.
Yes, so two areas, if I can jump in, Emmanuel, I think yes, very valid. So we'll need your help in setting up these meetings with the right people in these customer locations or distributors. The other bit also would be from a document perspective would be the tenders that you have won or the orders translated by way of a tender or a purchase order. Does it have any such clauses or conditions for you to remain with the current set of owners? I think that's the other way. So both are important. Yes, in fact, the first much more important. But even the second, if we are able to demonstrate that the paperwork does not have such clauses, I think that's one level of comfort that comes in.
Yeah. So change of control provisions in tenders.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was going through the contract with the Bundeswehr quite recently. So of course there is a clause about, let's say, necessity to inform them about any change in ownership, but there is no explicit point about, let's say, disqualifying the supplier from the change of the ownership to the specific country or region or origin.
Okay. So Ashish, I think any more questions you have?
Yeah, I had one question. Yeah, the last part was, I think we touched upon it, was about employees and what kind of commitments that come in for a new buyer if he buys this company. So we are aware, you mentioned that there are 110 odd people currently, 9 to 10 are likely to go down because of natural retirements and resignations. So one is, with these 10 moving out, are any onerous liabilities that need to be inherited? And also with the 98 that are there, what kind of commitments does a buyer have to look at? Is this business as usual or anything beyond that?
Yeah. So the pensions, I mean, there is an old scheme in place for a number of employees. It doesn't concern all of the employees of the company. And I know there are contributions from the company to that. I do not believe it's underfunded. Which I saw you wanted to speak. Do you have any information on the pension stuff?
No, not specifically, but I wanted to just, let's say that for me this is like business as usual. So of course, when it comes to, let's say, reduction of number of employees, that's something that needs to be, let's say, well organized and communicated. But other than that, I would say that's business as usual.
Okay. Yeah, so that was one question I had. I think we have covered the 3 areas that the IC asked us to look at.
So, Ashish, one more point was, Atinder was saying about this due diligence, short due diligence. So for that, what data they want, is that available with us? Or something more is required from their side?
Asim will need more information, which will be essentially, I would say, 1 or 2 layers beneath what we have seen so far. So
mostly the data that we have asked today in terms of sales, mostly that.
Yes, sales, certain tenders or purchase orders to see what Wojciech just confirmed, and a bit around the growth plan. Yes, the sales part. That's it.
Sales part, yeah.
Oh, sorry, one question. I'm sorry. Sorry. I had a question. I didn't interrupt because there's a flow. But Emmanuel, I wanted to link back to CY23, which was the phase, I think, the year post the invasion. The first year of invasion was 22, 23 was the first year post that. And we saw a good spike in sales. I think from about 19-20 million, we went to about 27 million of sales. Now then, what we discussed and I recollect was, there, because the sales went up, there was a particular time period by when the sales had to be met, urgency, etc. And then the company, in the process, hired some temporary workforce or some other element, other levers because of which the cost went up. So there I wanted to understand how do we, for the growth that comes later, how do we prove ourselves to say that we will not have a situation where what we had in CY23 where we had to pass on the cost, and in fact the gross margins were at 37% that year vis-a-vis 42% in all the other years.
Yeah. So what is it exactly that you need, to provide your ICT? But I understand the point, but sorry, I didn't quite catch the question.
Yeah, no. Let me elaborate on this. So the fixed cost leverage that we want to achieve is not apparent in the previous year when the sales went up. So our gross margins were 37%. No, how much that time? 37%. Yeah, but at EBITDA level, no tangible benefit is seen in that particular year when the sales has gone up. So what is the reasons for that? I think what we understand is that our personal cost has gone up. So, and because of the urgency, the cost has gone up. So in future, once we reach the same sales figure, how we get the confidence that yes, the margins will go up as that which is projected by your model. Is that right? Is that your question?
Yeah, I think here the answer is very simple because we've been explaining the operational excellence plan that we are introducing right now. So in that year, when the sales went up, of course we've been having higher costs because of a lot of inefficiency that we had. So operationally we've been not prepared for such a high peak in sales. So that's ended up with having more people involved.
Those inefficiency?
Sorry, once again?
Is it possible to list down those inefficiency in that year? That we have to work on?
Yeah, I think it's simple.
Yeah,
I can prepare something for you that will help to justify that. But you remember when you've been both in Gemmingen, I've been showing you this part of the operational improvement plan, which I believe I have also shared with you in data room. So there are multiple, let's say, reasons for inefficiencies. That's not only, let's say, lower efficiency on the shop floor, so how fast people are working, but also inefficiencies in our ERP system, in our supply chain. So let's say disconnection of production planning to the supply chain and material deliveries, waiting times, all of this waste and so on. So there are numerous things that basically have been there, and some of them are still there, which are not so much visible when the production plan and volumes are low, but are growing very fast whenever there is a peak in production.
Understood. Yeah. Okay, so if you can just make a document on that and send it to us. So Ashish, what is the next step now?
Yeah, so next step, Asim, is to understand how do we build on this. So these are the questions. Now, how do we lay the process to do a preliminary due diligence? Something which could be done, I would say, in about 7 to 10 days. And that helps us understand some of the assumptions much more better and move from an assumption stage to a more certain stage, so that then we can update that in the model and come back with the NPO.
Is that okay from your side, Wojciech and Emil?
Yeah, so, okay, based on, so just before we move on to that, the point you were having now, are you talking about gross margin deterioration, or you're talking about deterioration on net margin in 22 and 23?
I think on both, the gross margin also went down to 37, and the net margin also, I think, went down to, the EBITDA margin also went down to 2%. So I think...
Okay. Understand. Yeah, understand. So Just making some notes on my end.
Okay, Ashish. So even the gross margin has gone down. So then both we need the explanation. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to get to. So look, we can look into that. On the net margin, it's what Wojciech already explained, and I think he's already shared with you some of those operational, items relating to inefficiencies. But on the gross margin, if I remember correctly, Wojciech, 22 and 23 was when we had price increases from Briggs and Stratton on Honda. And we already had orders placed, so customers had already confirmed orders with us. Thus, we couldn't change the price of already confirmed orders. We absorbed essentially the higher cost of engines. Is that right?
Yes, and we have increased our pricing to adopt higher raw material prices with some delay. So that affected the result.
So one more question came to my mind. I know Briggs and Stratton very well because they have a presence in India, and their team was in touch with me in my previous company. Now, this kind of deal, will that, so on the front end we were talking about customer, but what about on the back end? Are the engine manufacturers, whatever agreements we have, those are binding, no? There should not be any problem. It should not happen that Briggs and Stratton says, no, we will not supply because the company which is a manufacturer of engine is buying you.
Yeah, I'm not able to answer that question on your behalf because I don't know what you've signed. But there is a chance that Briggs and Stratton Europe and Briggs and Stratton Germany will tell you need to buy from Briggs and Stratton Germany instead of buying from Briggs and Stratton India. I mean, this depends on your negotiation with them, right?
No, we are not buying anything from Briggs and Stratton. What I'm saying is, Briggs and Stratton should not stop supplying to you just because an engine manufacturer is bought a company.
No, not at all. They are US, so they are just interested in the volumes, and as long as we are paying on time, there is absolutely no problem with them.
Okay. Okay, Ashish, keep this in the mind and put it somewhere that this comment was made.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back then to yours, that answers that question for you, right, on Briggs? Yeah, okay. So going back to what you were saying about NBO and deeper diving, so I've been making a few notes. I think for the growth margin and net margin in 22 and 23, I think that point has pretty much been answered. I think you already have elements that talk on that. Deeper dive into the projections in the 3 different categories you spoke of. That's a breakdown I can give you, and with more context details. Focus on 5 countries of growth. That's something we can provide. Pension liabilities, we can give you our DO's view on that. And we can potentially also ask a lawyer of ours that we work with what her view is. Although, obviously, you do go to a later stage, and by the company, you should involve your own lawyer to take a look at this, because I'm not a pension expert. Control provision, we will double check that, but for now, I don't think there's any issue, as Wojciech already pointed out. So just informing the party, then. I will look into who I can connect you from government officials or questions or participating in defense. And then that's it. That's what I have on my end. Everything else has already been addressed. I will provide you again with what I've just described. After that, though, an NBO is an NBO, so it's non-binding, right? So, again. Sure. The sooner I have that, the better, because obviously the team is spending time on this, and we do see you as very serious buyers, of course. But I also need something for my own board to go back for my own credibility, right?
Sure. Yeah. So, from our side, I think this is the last leg, mostly before the NBO. So, this is also like a mini due diligence we want to do, and then move towards NBO. So, what Ashish said, 7 to 10 days is max now, and then we will go to the NBO stage. Is that okay? Ashish, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I had one question, and this is because I'm sharing the spirit of because we had this comment come from the IC, and I think some of the questions seem that are being asked, and Emmanuel summarized them. I think what we also asked in a way is to have some expert come in, a typical DD advisor, expert come in and help us on this pre-DD phase. Preliminary DD phase, which is what the 7 to 7 days I spoke about. And there we wanted to understand if we work with of course, we do the paperwork, we get someone on board and ask them to help us on this transaction, help us on this preliminary DD. Is that something that will work for you? What are your thoughts? How do we proceed forward?
I think that it makes more sense post NBO, right? Because 7 to 10 days is a very short period of time. Whomever you involve now is going to want longer than that and going to want to get into details. In principle, I'm fine with that, obviously pending my board approval. But ideally after an NBO.
Okay, got your point, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else, Ashish, or anything missed?
Yeah, so I was just going through the list of questions, the notes. I think we have covered them all. Between these points, I think we have covered them all. Asim, I think this bit, the feedback that Emmanuel shared, I think we'll have to loop back in with the IC and see how do we. Yeah, so that's the bit that we have to do, Emmanuel, and this is what you said, and we'll come back.
Okay, perfect. All right, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Emmanuel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Asim.